So I finally finished the first panel. There's a lot been going on. I chained 87 to start the second panel, which is the exact same amount I done on the first panel. It took me 70 rows to reach around 23 inches, which is about the length I needed for the panel. Now that I've done the 87 chains, I'm going to start half double crocheting each chain, starting second chain from the hook. I'm going to make a second panel, and then I'll stitch together the entire poncho. But it's just kind of a slow process. We've had a lot going on, and I hadn't really had much time to get to this part of my relaxation, and just taking time for myself and not really thinking about much. And part of the reason I chained off camera is because I normally get easily distracted when I count, and it takes about 2 or 3 times before I finally get the chain done. But I did mention that I was going to actually show or talk about the beginning once I showed the last video. And it took me about a week and a half, which is a really long time for me, to finally finish the other panel. But again, we've had a lot going on. Hopefully I can move through this panel a lot faster, because I have 2 other projects I need to finish up very shortly. And this one's fairly simple because it is a poncho. I'm going to do nothing but half double crochets every row, and once I connect the 2 panels, I am going to do like a kangaroo pocket on the front, and possibly, if I can get it all attached and have the time and still get my other projects done, I'm going to try to do a cowl on the front of this one with a light hood on the back, just to give it a little bit of outdoor protection if the person I'm giving it to needs it. And they are a lot shorter than me, so I have to plan for their height, not my own. But for me, a lot of the times I turn to crochet or baking. Those are my 2 go-to, just kind of to get out of my own head and kind of relax, or just attempt to slow my thoughts down. And that's just how I've learned to deal with everything. And it helps. But then again, at times I put a lot of stress on myself because I want to do projects for people and get things done by a certain time, and I sometimes fall behind. That does happen a lot. But at least I do finish my projects now. That's a step up. It is one thing when you're kind of got a quiet house, nobody's around, and you haven't got much going on. It's a great time just to kind of find something that takes your mind off of everything, so you can just kind of be with yourself and relax. And that's kind of what crochet is for me. And as I mentioned, I have several projects going on, not just with crochet, but with several things I'm working on that kind of keep me busy. I do well if I stay busy, it helps. But like I said, there's been a lot going on outside of projects for about a week and a half now, and some of my projects have been suffering. Some of the things I really should have been working on and getting finished, I wasn't. Because initially, when I started this poncho, my plan was to have it done in about a week and a half at most, and that's not working continuously. That's just when I get a chance. And instead of being a week and a half project, it took me about 3.5 weeks to even get to the second part of it. And that's something you've got to learn. Sometimes, even when you don't feel like you have time, you need to just take a few minutes for yourself. And I'm really trying to learn that, but it doesn't always work out for me. Now, I will say, as I'm thinking about it, one of the things I do or do work on when I'm doing a project like this, because there's two panels and I want them to be the exact size, and sometimes my tension may change throughout a project just because either I'm too tired or too wound up at the time when I'm working on it. I know that my tension changes, so what I will actually do, like today, after I chained the 87, I held the 87 chains up to the first panel and made sure it was the same width. And as I'm working on this panel and building the length up, I'll hold it up to the first panel and make sure that it's the same length. Because if you are like me and you have a tendency to switch tensions, then sometimes you just have to adapt to what you know is your changing tension. And what was 70 rows this time, or for the first panel, what took me 70 rows to create may take me 68, or it could take me 72. And by having the first panel there to compare it with, I have a baseline that even if my measurement seems a little off, I can keep track outside of my count for the entire project, because I don't want one panel to be a lot longer than the other or a lot shorter just because something changed in my tension and I didn't realize it until it was too late. I just have to adapt. So if you use crochet as a means to unwind or just kind of relax, the best thing you can do, especially if you're working in panels or like when you're building a sleeve on a cardigan, because I've made several cardigans, the absolute best thing to do is use the first one you make as your comparison base. And just because it's an extra row or two, it may not be that you messed up. One, you could have accidentally forgot to count a row, or you overcounted, you thought you counted, and then you took your counter and accidentally clicked it twice. I have done that. Or it could be that your tension and literally changed while you were working on the project. And it happens. No reason to throw the whole project out or start over just because there's a little change in your tension. Adapt for it. Adjust. Kind of like life. Having said that, I think I've done enough babbling for now. How about we just sit here, kind of relax, see what we can get done in a few minutes. And I'm not sure if I actually mentioned it on the other video. I happened to think as I was getting yarn there. One of the things I did find that really helps is I got a cheap paper towel holder like you would set on a cabinet in the kitchen. And when I use a skein of yarn, or like this project, I can only put one skein at a time on, but if I'm using a project where I've got thinner skeins, I can put 2 or 3 on the paper towel roll. And I just pull from the center. And I'm getting kind of low on this end of the skein, so I'm having to do a little more at pulling it out and untangling it. but for the most part it's not that difficult. I don't have as many problems with knots. So if you do crochet and you're looking for a little trick to help you out, instead of the bags and all of that for your skeins, get you a cheap paper towel holder. You would be amazed at how much it actually helps keep the project going, keep the skein from knotting up, and really just allows you to relax when you're working. Because honestly, until I start getting down to the very end of a skein, I rarely have to do anything as far as pulling out knots or anything other than what's in it when the skein was put together. And it usually goes pretty smoothly the entire project. So it is well worth investing in a cheap paper towel holder just to be able to crochet. That was one thing I just happened to think of, like I said, as I was sitting here fighting to pull some excess yarn out so I could keep moving through this row. And when I get to the end of the row, before I turn, I just chain one. Since I'm doing double crochet, I found that it keeps my edges straighter. I know some people do double, some won't do it all. But chain one seems to work the best with my tension when I'm changing and trying to double crochet on a row. And I'm a little over halfway, well, not quite halfway, to finishing up row 2. That's probably going to be all I've got a chance to do for now. And then we'll pick back up a little bit later when the chance arises. If you want to just sit here and relax for a few minutes with me while I get this last few stitches done on this row. Oh, while I'm thinking about it, since I'm almost at the end of this row, I actually don't do a back loop or front loop only with this half double crochet. You can if you decided to do a similar project. And I will say, once I finish this one up, I will actually share the pattern I created to make this. But I just did not want to put the time it takes. I didn't want to add extra time. Because as I mentioned, I've got about 2 other projects that really need to get finished kind of soon. And if I do front loop or back loop, I know I move a little bit slow, and I actually pick up speed sometimes. I'm just more sluggish today. But when I do front loop or back loop, it does slow me down significantly. And when I initially started the project, as I mentioned, I thought it would be a short, quick, said and done. I didn't have to worry about it. I wasn't planning on falling behind on all my stuff. And I elected to go with just standard half double crochet, both loops. But if you wanted to create your own and do a front loop or back loop only, it would create a very beautiful pattern that would stand out on this. But I have the last 2 stitches on this, so if you want to finish up with me, I guess we will get ready to call it a day, and let's see what else we can get into. Oh, and one last thing I will say, these stitch markers are absolutely amazing. I may try to see if I can find the link from where I got them and share them in a video here shortly. But I hope y'all have a great afternoon. Like I said, we got the chain done and off video, and then we started and got 2 beautiful rows done. Let's see what happens next.